Well, that was awful. Absolutely awful. Not only on a tactical level, but on a personnel level, on an effort level. I'm going to take a look at what we learned from this game against Leeds and how we were defeated by Leeds 1-0. Because of a dubious penalty, I will add. But let's take a look at some of the tactical things that happened in this game that led to Everton struggling, as well as the problems we encountered when trying to structure our own attacks and what needs to change going forward for David Moyes. This is how both teams lined up, and the lineups is the first thing we need to talk about because, well, no fullbacks, 2 goalkeepers on the bench, and generally just no width and no pace throughout the team. O'Brien at right back instantly gave me alarm bells because he, as the right back, even though he's a centre back, was immediately given the task of carrying the attack for some reason, and that's going to be something I touch on in a bit. But across the team, massive issues. Tim Irabunum, I really like him in his talent, but he's just not good enough. Not good enough for this team to be starting in a Premier League game. Maybe he'll get there in the future, but at the minute, it's not good enough, and it just signifies that need for another midfielder. Beto up top was another one that slightly confused me, especially given Moyes' comments in pre-season that he wasn't good enough in making sure he keeps the ball. When you try and play the ball to Beto, it comes back at you so quickly. And before this game, I thought, okay, maybe he's ironed out those problems in his game. No, I'm going to touch on that because he absolutely didn't. And it just meant relentless pressure for Leeds. And it allowed them to do one specific thing that massively hurt Everton throughout the first half in particular, and was a threat in the second half as well. First off, let's look at some of the problems Everton faced when out of possession, because I think with the lack of fullbacks in this team, it was an immediate question mark with how Everton were going to defend and how we'd overcome this, especially with Leeds having wingers such as Willy Gnonto and Dan James with that pace and directness. And you see here, Garner is clearly watching Dan James, and that's his job in this role, in this left-back role. However, they had Bogle making these runs in behind, which meant that Iliman Ndiaye always had to track him, and when he didn't, there was so much threat down that side. Not only did it mean that Everton were pinned back all the time, it also meant that Iliman Ndiaye was nowhere near the final third of the pitch, and we'll get to that as well, because when we had the ball, he was having a very rough day out there, and not really his fault. It was more of a team problem that we're going to talk about as well. And another problem on the other side was Gnonto's positioning and the left back Goodmanson's positioning, because you can see here, it's a 2v1. Iliman Ndiaye is on the right in this instance, with Alcaraz starting on the right before this happened, but no matter who it was, they struggled. And O'Brien was getting dragged in to these two all the time. And when it's 2v1, he is going to struggle. He's not a right back to start with. He's a centre back. Defensively, yes, in his own box, he can be excellent, but not in these situations. He's just not got the reps in that position. And this was a problem that happened over and over again. You've got Alcaraz here, the right winger. He's stood kind of centrally, meaning that the distance between him and the left back is too big. This distance, by the time the ball goes over to the left back, Alcaraz has to run over to try and pressure him, but in that time, the left back's already got an idea in his head of what he wants to do next. And that led to Jake O'Brien being dragged out all the way to the left back to put pressure on the ball. But the problem with this was there was way too much space being left in behind in this area for Willy Gnonto to attack. And literally a couple seconds later, you see what the problem was, because Leeds were able to work the ball to Gnonto so effectively into the final third. And when Gnonto's got O'Brien 1v1, it's such a difficult task for O'Brien because he's got no help. Like, Alcaraz is working back. You can see him here, he's looking at the ball, but he's still quite a distance away. And to be fair to Alcaraz, he's not a right winger. He's never claimed to be a right winger. He's a number 10. He looked okay when he moved there later on, but not really good enough. And then there's a similar problem happening again. This time it's Anton Stack actually taking up a position familiar to that of a left back. And the problem that this caused was Idrissa Gana Gueye. Look at him. He is on the right hand side, which is not where you want him to be, because then you just compare the distance between Idrissa Gana Gueye and his midfield partner, Tim Irabunum. That's a huge distance. The team structure, the team shape, all gone because of Garnagay needing to go out and press that side because nobody else was doing it. You can see here, Charlie Alcaraz is now back here trying to double up with Jake O'Brien, which is okay. But when you're trying to apply pressure on the ball and also sit off at the same time, gaps do occur. And you can see here, the left back, Goodmanson, is in acres of space. And he's open to receiving the ball. And it's just easy to play around it. So easy for this to happen. And for Everton just to be cut open over and over again. Especially on the left-hand side with the triangles. Meanwhile, you've got Jake O'Brien keeping an eye on the left back. Alcaraz keeping an eye on the ball. Nobody's keeping an eye on Goodmanson making this run in behind. And that was the problem over and over and over again. And you see just how easy it was for Leeds to work around this with Tanaka getting on the ball here. Look at Alcaraz here. He's in no man's land. O'Brien is there, right back. He's been played around. Garnagay scrambling to come across. Meanwhile, Everton have got 3 players on this side of the pitch. But nobody's on Anton Stack, and when the ball goes to him, everybody's going to get attracted to the ball, and guess who's in space again to make that run into the channel? Willy Gnonto. So defensively, those were some of the issues that Everton had in this game. Defensively, it was just a makeshift team. We all know that, but it can't be deemed acceptable to start with. But the biggest problems were offensively. I thought we lacked so much in that game. In the first 14 minutes, Leeds had 5 corners. I'm not even sure Everton had more than 3 touches in the final third. And a big problem for the defence in particular was this, because it looks okay because there's passing options, short passing options all over the pitch. You can play it pretty easy. However, time and time again, the ball that Everton were looking to make was this one to Jake O'Brien, who was making this run forward. So with the sweeping ball all the way over, it's a way of getting up the pitch, and I understand that, and it's a way of bypassing all the Leeds players, because if you play that ball, you do bypass all of these players in the middle part of the pitch, which is fine. But the next action has to be perfect, because O'Brien isn't a world beater in the final third or even in the opposition's half. And he doesn't claim to be, and that's fine. But there needs to be a better solution than just pinging the long balls to a centre-back playing right back, who's also having a nightmare game defensively because of the overloads on the left side. And I'm also going to touch on how O'Brien's attacking role did actually hurt Everton at times as well, because him having to go forward to be that target actually left loads of space, way more space than it was worth in the attacking sense. Defensively, it was a nightmare for O'Brien, and something has to change in that aspect. We've spent a lot of money on forwards this summer. It can't be O'Brien leading the attack. It absolutely can't be. And if we take it to the tactics board, I can show you what the problems were. Just hide Leeds. So Everton in possession, it looked something like this. So Michael Keane on the ball, very deep. Meanwhile, you have Jake O'Brien all the way on the right wing as that advanced option, looking for these passes to be played to him, as we just spoke about. But with no right winger, when the ball does come to O'Brien, and we saw this in the second half more than anything, when the ball does get switched over to O'Brien as Everton work up the pitch, O'Brien gets the ball, and there's literally nothing ahead of him in terms of options. All his options are laterally, which just allowed Leeds to remain so narrow, and it ended up with all these narrow players, Iliman Ndiaye coming inside as well at times. It just meant that all the game was played between both boxes. And for Leeds, with the size they have in Tanaka, in Ampadu, in Stack, Rodon at the back as well, Strauch as well, it's just easy to disrupt things. You're making the pitch a third of its size by doing this. There's nothing out wide. And one player who came on out wide was Jack Grealish, and his influence, it was a little too late to be honest, but it's not his fault. But he did have some impact in terms of stretching the play a bit, and we're going to look at that just here. And David Moyes tried to address this by bringing on Jack Grealish. I thought he'd bring him on in a central position, but with Everton having literally nothing out wide either side, it did make sense with Grealish having all those reps at Man City playing wide to have that experience out wide, I guess. And when he came on, he instantly gravitated to the byline. And that immediately stretches things. It asks question of Jayden Bogle. If the ball gets switched, does Bogle go over? Does Dan James go over? Does Tanaka go over? Does that leave spaces in the middle of the park for Everton to play through, with Keane Dewsbury-Hall being there, Beto being there, all these technical players being there. Alcaraz, another one, stood in the middle again. So you can see the tactical switch and what David Moyes tried to do, but the execution and just the general feel of this game didn't really match up. And if we just look at the first half of why this Grealish sub at left wing was needed as opposed to as a number 10, as we thought he might play, this is why it was needed. You see here, James Garner's got the ball, and he's had to turn away from goal because there is literally no option in this part of the pitch for him to play into, meaning he has to cut back because he's not left-footed. He can't simply just carry the ball, aim for the byline, and then look for a cutback because he's just not left-footed. When you're a right-footer playing at left-back, almost half of, well, a third of the pitch is certainly cut off because Garner wants to be facing this way, meaning that the ball is always just going to get recycled. Leeds are going to press the ball, and the ball is inevitably going to go backwards, and that was a problem whenever we had rare instances of actually getting into Leeds' final third. And then we come to that problem of narrowness again. One player that signifies this is Jake O'Brien. I don't want to hammer Jake O'Brien because he was given such a difficult task today, and you see him here. He is in the final third in an inverted position, bearing in mind he's the widest player we have. Nobody is wider than Jake O'Brien at this current point in time. But look where everyone else is. Alcaraz is here. Keane Dewsbury-Hall is here. Beto is making a run into the left channel. But look at Iliman Ndiaye all the way over here. Because nobody's coming short. It just makes it so easy for Bogle and Dan James to double up on Iliman Ndiaye. And the reason for that is because of Garner's positioning here. Leeds don't mind if Iliman Ndiaye just plays this backwards pass because they know they can just work up the pitch and win the ball back. But if James Garner made these runs into this massive space right here, it would make Leeds question whether they should back off or not. And similarly to the first point I made about Dan James making those runs in tandem with Bogle on the right side, it does displace opposition defenders and it doesn't allow you to double up on the winger. And when Iliman Ndiaye is by far and away our best player, you need to give him that platform to do it. We saw Mikalenko last season. He was getting up there. Quality-wise, not amazing, but his ability to go into this final third and just offer that width opens up an entire new lane for Iliman Ndiaye to cut inside on his right foot. But without this, Iliman Ndiaye becomes so predictable and is often doubled up on. And even if he did beat two players, there's another Leeds player just waiting there to win the ball back. And then you've got Ampadu there as well, because Leeds aren't concerned about this part of the pitch by any sense of the way, because why would they? There's no options there. Iliman Ndiaye can try and go down there, but when you've got the touchline acting as another defender, if it goes out, Leeds get a throw in, it's just impossible. You can't do it. And that's a big problem with not having the left back, especially the way David Moyes wants to play. And then when Iliman Ndiaye is in trouble with a 2v1 situation, he does try to look for the ball into the box, but there's bodies in front of him. It's just a gamble. It's a percentage ball and a low percentage ball at that, because if you launch the ball into that mixer, it's not going to work. And then you have the problem of Jake O'Brien being so high. I'm going to highlight O'Brien here. He's here. The ball, Everton have just lost the ball in this situation. And now look at all the space Willy Gnonto has to attack. Because he's stayed high, he's waiting for O'Brien to overcommit, and then he's just got so much of the pitch. He's got the entire Everton half to run into. It's way too easy. It's a bit basic tactically from Everton. Things need to change, because it can't be that spending all this money results in Jake O'Brien being your only attacking outlet. It's just not good enough. Now in terms of what we do going forward, I think Moyes is going to have to go to the board and ask for those checks, because this can't continue like this. We need attacking options. We need players who can play in the actual positions they're supposed to play. I know we brought in Adam Asnu, but if he's not up to it with an injury, Mikalenko's also out injured, it can't be Garner. We don't want to see that again. Garner's a good player, but he's just not a left back, and that's fine. Get a left back. You can go into the free agents market and just get someone to be that third choice that doesn't disrupt the system too much if you put him in. Garner as a left back just disrupts the system entirely. And at right back, he can do a job. But that's not where we played him because we don't have a left back. So we need to play someone there. And Garner was the unlucky person who drew the short straw on that occasion. In terms of other new signings, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall didn't really do much, but when Everton struggled that much to work the ball up the pitch and was struggling, getting dragged all over the place by those triangles on the left side for Leeds, you can't really blame Dewsbury-Hall for not having that much influence in the game because often he was operating 60 yards away from the Leeds goal and not really given the chance to shine and do what he's best at, which is go forward, create chances. There was one moment where he slipped inside Alcaraz, who then tried to slip it inside again to Beto, but it didn't really work out. But there was a glimpse there, and a positive glimpse if we're looking for the positives. Secondly, Jack Grealish needs to start next game. I don't know why he didn't start. Maybe Moyes wants to ease him in. But when he's that much better, clearly that much better than what we have, we just have to start him. Even if that does mean Iliman Ndiaye going to the right wing, as he did in this game, and as he often does for Senegal, that's fine, because Grealish on the left wing and Iliman Ndiaye on the right wing is better than just Iliman Ndiaye on the left wing. Now, this is going to be a massive week for Everton, because we've highlighted our frailties for the entire league to see, entire world to see. We need to get that right winger in. We need a defensive midfielder who can play alongside Gabe, because Tim, I love him as a profile. I think he's really good at carrying the ball, but otherwise he doesn't offer enough for me. We need that person who can get on the ball, put the challenges in and sit there to allow Gana Gueye just to go and hunt for the ball, because Gana Gueye shielding the back four is one way of using him, but he's so much better at going hunting for the ball. You need to get that player in that allows him to do this. And as well, I didn't think we needed the left back because I thought Asnu was fit. Clearly isn't. So maybe just go into the free agents market, get someone that ties you over until Mikalenko and Asnu are fit, and then you can channel the energy into developing Asnu, having Mikalenko there just to rotate in and out with him. I think that's a good way of going about it. When it comes to right back, we need to spend that right back. There's not many right backs available right now. It can't be O'Brien getting fed to the Lions every single week. It's just not fair on him. He's a centre back. He should have played centre back today, I feel. But who do you play at right back if you have to play Garner at left back? Because Garner would have been my option to come in as that auxiliary right back. That's a problem. That's a problem that needs addressing. So a lot of work to do in the squad, and the Friedkins will probably be watching this game sweating a little bit because the positivity around the club, and to be fair, I've been pretty positive because these new faces coming in have actually been the right profiles for Everton and what we lacked last season. But when it comes to these moments of how we actually look on the pitch, we do look miles off it, and there are improvements that has to be made, must be made to make sure Everton don't look so poor on the pitch and don't start the season poorly, and by Christmas the season is just all about finishing as high in mid-table as you can. This was a positive season up until this game, until the first game. Only 37 more to go, but I think I'm trying to be as positive as I can. It can't be worse than that. It can't be worse than that. Against other teams, we would get battered playing like that. I think hopefully that's a kick up the ass for the players that realise that this isn't the level required. Hopefully Moyes goes into the boardroom and just demands what we need. He has been warning us throughout pre-season that the squad's not good enough. We've not got enough of these players through the door. And with the signs like Asnu, Barry, Grealish all coming in, Dewsbury-Hall another one, I feel like it's papered over the cracks a little bit, and the problems have now been ostracized massively and emphasized. And hopefully that does get us more bodies through the door, and we just go and pay that fee for Dibbling, because he's a player that would just complements the side and gives us something on the right-hand side that Alcaraz just can't do. So those are my thoughts of what we learned from this game. I'm trying to find positives. Grealish looked okay, but otherwise, yeah, pretty poor. 37 more to go. It will get better, but just has to be worse for a bit so it can get better.